I think this is the one. Yes, it is.
There we go.
All right. So it wouldn't be a week in the game development industry if a studio didn't lay people off, right?
Unfortunately, yes. We are just barely in the second quarter, and already we have a big layoff going on with Relic.
So, you know, the developers of Company of Heroes, Relic Entertainment, got cut off from Sega about, I think, like a couple of months ago. It might have even been just a month ago. It wasn't that long.
It wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long ago where Sega took the people who created Company of Heroes and said, we're going in a different direction. That's not what really happened, but they cut loose the studio.
Yeah, they did.
And when they cut loose the studio, of course, there were some layoffs.
Yeah.
Now there's more layoffs.
Now Relic, who's on their own, have decided, you know what, we just really can't do this, so we're going to lay off even more people.
Yeah,
so at this point,
it's like a couple hundred at most. I mean, this was like a 500 person studio, so it was a sizable small studio, studio.
Yeah, well, guess what? Without all those people, they're really lean now.
Yeah,
I mean, super lean.
They said it wasn't trimming the fat; it was cutting into the bone.
Yeah, and I believe it too. I believe it.
Crazy.
I'm like, who's really left to do game development over there at Relic?
So basically, they're running on what is effectively a skeleton crew. Hey, BG, good to see you. He said, so lean they are going to be able to make anything else. The CEO. Yeah, exactly, BG. Well, interesting that you mentioned the CEO, because he does actually talk a bit about this. Let me go ahead and bring up the article on our end.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is actually not the CEO. This is a senior game producer. So Aaron Billings is the one that says this is a cut to the bone. He himself was let go. And at this point, what's going to be really difficult is that this developer that has created some amazing games. Okay, we're talking Company of Heroes, the Warhammer 40K, one of the Warhammer 40K. I think it was Space Marine. You know, a bunch of just fantastic games. This studio is letting go of these employees, but here's the thing. Okay, normally we give a studio an insane amount of shit for letting people go, and you know, Relic does not get off without you know, getting something, getting some kind of a slap on the hand. But this studio has been so badly damaged by being cut off from Sega that it may not survive. So this is a last-ditch effort from Relic Entertainment to survive.
Yeah. Now,
Teal and I have been on all sides of business before, and we understand that layoffs are sometimes a necessary evil. Yes, you should trim the fat of executive salaries and bonuses and all that stuff. But there comes a point sometimes where your most expensive and best resource, which is human resources, is just way too much.
Yeah.
And you have to let some people go in order to survive. Now, Teal and I, are big proponents of what's called a temporary layoff. That's where you lay someone off for 5, 6, 12 months, whatever, while you get your financial shit together.
Right.
With the understanding that you'll be bringing them back on.
It's called furloughs.
Furloughs. Most companies don't furlough nowadays.
No, they just they cut you off and you're done.
Yeah.
Thank you. You know. Yeah. I don't feel very good about the Relic thing. No. I don't. They are just putting off the inevitable, which is just closing their doors.
Yes.
It comes a point where you just don't have enough human resources and other things to actually build a really good game. You just don't have it. And even if you do have the resource to build a good game, how are you going to effectively market it and distribute it and whatever? You don't have those people in place because you got rid of all the marketing. So I don't think Relic is in a good place. I'm expecting them to shut down in either quarter 2 or quarter 3.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they do some way soldier on, LOL, you know, not making fun of the game they made, and figure out a way to get back in. Maybe the community will help them. Maybe they'll kickstart something. I mean, I don't know, you know. But as Spider says, they're cooked. Yeah. This is a very bad situation. And unfortunately, this is a trend. This is happening more and more often, where studios are getting, for whatever reason, maybe it's because they had a bad release, maybe it's because the people that, you know, the parent studio or the investors just aren't satisfied. I mean, the reason's not important, but they're getting cut loose and people are losing their jobs. or a studio will have a bad release and they can't afford to keep on all the people they have on.
Right.
And they'll go through it and they'll lay off, and it will affect their next product. And it'll lay off and they'll affect their next product. And before you realize it, you have another relic. Who's the next relic going to be? Who are we going to be talking about next week or next month?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It's just this is what's happening is these bigger companies, Microsoft, Sony, Sega, whatever, just pick one.
Yeah.
Buying up all these smaller studios, and then at that point you're just a pawn, you're just a number. And when the big boys decide that you're not producing enough, or you're not, for whatever reason, they decide that you're not needed in their portfolio, boom, they kick you out.
Yeah.
And you're left without any kind of lifeline.
Yeah. As Burke says, reminder, Embracer started cutting loose of jobs. The second investment with the Saudi Arabia group didn't go through. Yeah. The other thing is, too, is a lot of the companies are putting all their eggs in one basket, whether it be this overseas investor or new technology. Yeah, we're looking at generative AI and previously NFTs. They're looking at something to bolster them, to be their savior.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with just the industry just being so saturated. There's so many games, and we could probably go into an entire stream about what's really going on in the industry, and we've kind of talked about that.
We have talked about that.
Yeah.
The gaming industry is behaving just like all the other entertainment industries. Yeah. It's getting ruled by a couple of big ones, and these big ones are either absorbing the smaller ones or just stomping them completely.
Yeah.
And then if you've been absorbed by a big one, your fate is in their hands.
Yeah, absolutely.
Literally, your fate is in their hands and their whims.
And all it takes is one bad release. Like, was it? I like what who was it? I think it was BG. Well, BG says the industry is correct at that second, but I think there you go. BG said if it doesn't make $40 billion, they don't want to make it.
Yep.
And a serial saying too many executives chasing profits. Yes. And investors, instead of focusing on making good sustaining titles for customers to enjoy. Yeah. I mean, let's look at the absolute outcry over Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which Bert just mentioned.
Yeah.
I mean, the game. Okay, so I watched the cutscenes. And while I have my mixed feelings about the whole send-off to Kevin Conroy's Arkhamverse Batman, the story itself is actually it's okay. But the game itself is just bad.
Garbage.
It's just bad. It's repetitive, grindy gameplay with bad boss fights. And maybe there's people who enjoy it, but the fact is it's not for me.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because we were actually looking at getting it because I wanted to play Deadshot and you wanted to play your girl Harley.
Yep.
But don't like repetitive grindy play.
No.
Sorry, not our style. So they took a gamble. Obviously the fandom rebelled against it for the most part.
They did.
But there are people who play it. I think it's like 5,000 concurrent users with over 24 hours, which for a live games of service is terrible. We're not going to get into it. We're not talking about Suicide Squad versus the Justice League. What we're talking about is how that was a title that a lot of money and effort went into, and because it failed, it's going to cause a lot of problems in the long run.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening nowadays, is a studio has a bad title like Suicide Squad, or a title that's badly received, and then suddenly there's a cascade effect. So how many people are going to lose their jobs over this? What is the chance of Rocksteady getting less funding, or having its investors go, let's go in a different direction, or looking to sell? I mean, we don't know what's going to happen, so we can only speculate, but these are the things that lead to a Relic Entertainment situation.
Yeah. See, it's really difficult, and I understand the dilemma of these small and medium-sized studios, and even larger studios like Bethesda that got bought out. Yeah. You really, really need the cash, you need the support, you need the resources that these bigger boys can offer. So you willingly go in a partnership because you need this. Okay, so at that point, when you go into what I call a partnership, what you're really doing is serving the big boys investors and shareholders.
Right.
Because those people, they don't care about your game. They don't care about what you're doing. As long as you're making them their money, they don't care.
So back in around 2018, 2019, about the time the pandemic started, when Teal and I started doing the creator classrooms, we held a classroom about what is going wrong in the game industry, and we mentioned the seeds of these things, of people choosing, you know, executives, people who have no idea how to make games, getting way too much power in the decision making of game development, and it was starting to cascade. And we made a grim prediction that if this continues, it's only going to get worse. And unfortunately,
it has.
Yeah,
it has. Now you're seeing a lot of these. You're seeing the results of all this. You know, studios like Relic and the other one we talked about just a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
all of that. They're layoffs.
Yeah, layoffs.
And they're getting kicked to the curb. And again, it's because now these studios, these ones that are getting kicked to the curb, they are dependent. They are reliant upon their more giant partners to provide them with the cash and the resources and whatever to make their games and keep them going. And this is just a cycle. It's just a vicious circle. So they kick this studio to the curb, and that studio to the curb, and that studio either flounders and dies, or it flounders and flops into somebody else's lap.
Right, and then as Burke said earlier, the problem is scale. Every single game has to be a blockbuster.
Yeah.
There's only so much time and money to go around because us players only have a limited amount of time and money. So because of all of that, when you look at all of that, it's just becoming a self-repeating vicious cycle that's getting worse. And I agree with a comment that Burke said earlier. I mean, BG said earlier. I think the game industry is beginning to lead itself to a crash.
It certainly is.
Because this is an unsustainable situation.
It is unsustainable. You know, and if, again, I can't say this enough. If you partner with somebody like, you know, a Sega, a Sony, a Microsoft, a Google, a Meta, you partner with them, you are signing away a lot of your own free will, your freedom, your ability to make it on your own. You are dependent on them for survival. And I don't care what you think or say, you are dependent on them for your survival. And even if you think you become self-sustaining and you can walk away from them, they're not going to let you just walk away.
No, they're not. They never do.
No,
they never do.
So that's a bad thing. Now, let's say you decide not to do that at all. We're gonna go on our own no matter what. Well, the industry is now ruled by a couple of big guys who own a lot of these studios. Start looking at who owns who. Just start. Yes, that's public record. Start looking at who owns who.
Follow the money.
You follow the money. You're going to be shocked, I think, with who ultimately owns these different gaming studios. Companies that have nothing to do with entertainment whatsoever are owning some of these things.
It's crazy.
And if you're a small studio, like, and I'm not going to get in bed with that. Okay, well, they're gonna try to crush you because they have been crushing studios for the past 20 years.
Yes. Now, there is a silver lining to all this that we'll get into next, because despite the fact that there's been crushing and foot clamping and absolutely annihilation, there is actually a golden opportunity and a silver lining to all this. And we're going to talk about that next. All right. So if you like what you saw, leave the smack down like button below, subscribe to our channel, consider supporting us on Patreon, connect us over Discord and all the other social medias, and we'll see you in the next video.
Yeah, see you next time.